MBR, nothing but rants, show where I find topics that I'm rather passionate about and I pontificate upon them. These are not hot takes, but rather takes that I am hot about.
Nothing but rants.
Hot takes.
3-point stance, we advance. Ball in my hands, I don't take no chance. Touchdown dance, that's my jam. No hot takes, this is nothing but rants. Nothing but rants. Nothing but rants. Nothing but rants. You know Brooks finna cook, let him rain. Try to do it like us, but you can't. Stay the young, going dumb with the chance. Big plays lead to even bigger bands. What's up? What's the word? What's the play? What we talking about? On the scene with the team, yeah, we popping out. NBR, let's get it, let's go. Film guy, get on ready for the show. What it is, what it ain't, what's happening? We gon' hit you with the stats and the facts, man. NBR, let's get it, let's go. Film guy, get on ready for the show. 3-point stance, we advance. Ball in my hands, I don't take no chance. Touchdown dance, that's my jam. No hot takes, this is nothing but rants. Nothing but rants. Nothing but rants. Nothing but rants. Hey, shout it end zone dancing. We about to start it up, it's the anthem. That right, big rings got me handsome. Hold them up like we came for the ransom. I'm in the field, 2-minute drill. Highlight reel, let's review, what's the deal, okay? Watching footage going out of control. Buckle up, we got an hour to go, so let's go, that's straight heat. Ain't no chillin' around here. Back that back, Nat Chance, how we feelin' around here? Got my whole squad in the building around here. If my name ain't on it, then I really don't care. Come on. 3-point stance, we advance. Ball in my hands, I don't take no chance. Touchdown dance, that's my jam. No hot takes, this is nothing but rants. Nothing but rants. Nothing but rants. Nothing but rants. On the beat, hey. Yeah.
And I'll tell you what, I know how some of those guys recruit too. Go dig into that. We can do anything you want. I ain't got no problem with it. I promise you that shit.
Listen to the words. Garbage, a joke, clown acts, pisses me off. No, come find me. No, come find me. Listen to the words. Come find me. Garbage, a joke, clown acts, pisses me off.
I ain't a hard guy to find. I promise you that shit.
Listen to the words. Garbage, a joke, clown acts, pisses me off. What is up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome in to the Film Guy Network on a fabulous Wednesday afternoon. If you don't know by now, off-season content means Wednesdays at noon. Me and the homie JWill locked in the studio here in Mom's basement, bringing you a live Q&A. We normally do show on Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday during the off-season, starting at 8 o'clock live. This is our opportunity to continue to work. We always say, we do like 17 hours a week on video during the season. I think we just slack off during the off season and do about 13 hours a week.
That's it?
That's it.
Only 13?
Yeah, just that's it. And you know what? This is our least viewed show. Least viewed show. I think it's my favorite.
Yeah.
And the reason being, least amount of work for yours truly. I show up and I talk, and that's awesome. I love opportunities to just show up and hang out with you guys and talk with you guys, talk a little football as we are going to do today. So go ahead and load up those questions in the chat. Always known rule around here, Super Chubs get attached or attacked first, and Football Q for BA, our email account. Again, that is Football Q, the letter Q, for FORBA at gmail.com. If you have any football-related question, okay, that you just, maybe it's something you hear us say on the network that you can't quite understand, or maybe you need clarification upon, or maybe it's a time period of the calendar of football like this one from John Plumer. John asks, what is the training process like for players getting ready for the upcoming combine? Does each player have an individual trainer? Do the school/university provide training for the combine? All right, so here's how this works. If you have an agent, that agent probably has some type of pre-draft process that they have adopted over the years. So a lot of these guys go to specific workouts in specific places scattered across the country. One of them's in Florida. I know one of them's in Arizona. I think there's another one out there in Las Vegas. There are certain agencies that have selected speed trainers and strength and conditioning coordinator trainers and nutritionists and position trainers, right? One of the best defensive back trainers around here in the state of Georgia is a guy by the name of Oliver Davis, okay? I believe played at North Cobb, went on to go play at Carson Newman, and is now one of the best defensive back trainers in the world. Do you know what he does this time of the year? This time of the year, he is sent by all these agents to these little pockets of the country to handle their defensive backs. So long story short, as soon as you declare for the draft and as soon as you sign representation, that representation already has a plan ready for you. Okay, now our first question of the day comes nice and loaded from Jonathan in here in the studio. What is the best variant of a hot dog? Now, me, myself, and I'm an OG guy. Give me a standard, good ballpark Frank, little ketchup, little mustard, and then I'm good with that.
That's it?
That's it. I'm a basic B. That's it. I'm a basic guy. If you have to throw chili onto a hot dog to make it good, that's a mediocre hot dog. That's my opinion.
Well, I don't think you have to throw it on there and make it good. Now, I'm with you. If I'm at a ball game, it's certainly just
a little thick
regular
ballpark Frank.
Yeah, it's just a regular ketchup and mustard type of deal because don't want to get too messy in the ball stands of chili dripping everywhere or cheese or anything. But for me, if I had my choice, I'm just a nice and easy mustard and slaw type of guy, especially my mom's slaw. Oh, my mom's slaw is so good.
Anything that's, base components are cabbage and mayonnaise, miss me on that.
Get you some pickle juice in there.
Miss me on that one entirely. All right, let's get into the actual football questions here. This one comes from Henry. Henry says, more important question. Why do we think that Ernest, Micah, Drew, and Monroe will be good enough this year when they weren't last? It's a tremendous question. Now, let's make excuses, shall we? Let's make excuses. Ernest Green played the back half of that year with like one arm.
Yeah.
The whole left shoulder was completely unable to be moved. Or at least strike with. If you watch that Ole Miss game, which is the one that has most people in our channel asking questions like this about Ernest, it wasn't any other performance. It was almost solely that performance against Ole Miss. If you look at that on tape, he has no left-hand shock, okay? So he's getting beat with speed rush over that left side because his left shoulder was very, very vulnerable. So I expect Ernest to know going into this year, Jonathan, that not only are people behind me chasing us, but this is it, man. If I have an opportunity to play really long time in the NFL, I've got to shore up all of the things in this year that caused questions about my future. If you remember the redshirt freshman year, this is a redshirt freshman All-American at left tackle as a first-year starter for the SEC. I think he allowed 3 pressures as a redshirt freshman the entire year. So we went from, hey, Ernest Green is a solidified 6'3.5" left tackle that plays with tremendous technique, footwork, hand striking, hat and hand placement, all that good stuff too. Hey, this guy might be a liability. The only connective tissue in all of that, or the connective point in all of that for me was, well, his left shoulder's banged up.
Yeah, I mean, the entire offensive line was dealing with injuries, it felt like, for the better part of the year. I mean, 4 out of 5 starters. I think Dylan Fairchild was the only one that didn't miss time due to an injury. So it was definitely a banged-up unit. I guess one thing you could also say, and I guess you could throw this into the excuse category as well, is this will be the first time that these guys that our guy Henry mentioned of them working as a cohesive unit of like, this is the starters, this is who you're going to go with. And you'll also have some new faces cycle in because we know that Georgia likes to rotate a lot of offensive linemen in.
And the question about Micah Morris, like Micah wasn't good enough to beat out Dylan Fairchild and Tate Ratledge the last 2 years. It wasn't that he wasn't good enough to play SEC football. And they showed you that by actually forcing him to get in, like forcing their hand to put him in. You know what I mean? They've done that in years past with guys they think are playable. And the term in the Georgia building is winnable. Do we think the guy's winnable, not playable? We want to be winnable. All of them are playable if they're on the roster. But are you winnable when you get in there? Micah's had a winnable grade at the University of Georgia for 2 years now, and he'll get the opportunity to be a starter for the first time in his career this year. By the way, Jared Wilson did the same exact thing Okay, and went on to be, he's about to be a 3rd-round draft pick, we think, 4th-round draft pick, number 1 offensive center taken off the board, which goes into that comment about Drew Bobo. Y'all in for a surprise with Drew Bobo, I think. If you haven't been paying attention to what we've done this offseason with the film work, it hasn't been a ton of it, but we looked at that backup unit and that offensive line, and we left tremendously impressed with Drew Bobo as a bona fide center, a guaranteed dude that I think is going to play really, really well during his time period at the University of Georgia. We'll keep it rolling from Henry right here. Doesn't Ja Jackson and Michael Unai at left tackle, left guard seem like more exciting than Green and Morris? And this is the old Georgia football fan dilemma. The highly touted, really, really cool recruiting profile from 24/7 Sports and On3 that's sitting on the bench must be better than what we have because they were ranked higher or they had hype coming into college. I've always found this one, and I extend this grace to every single college football program that there is that we talk about. When we have 5 stars sitting on the bench, I assume that's because the starter's better than the 5-star. And look, you can call me naive, you can call me whatever, you can say that the grass is greener. I just tend to lean on the coaching staff that's paid millions, that gets to see these guys 365 days a year. I trust at every single one of these schools that the decision being made that the starter is the starter because he's simply the best. And that's just always my assumption there. And maybe I'm wrong. And maybe, Jonathan, this has opened up to me being wrong on this because there is NIL investment, because there is money now tied to these players that, you know, if you're paying, and this is not the case, by the way, if you're paying Ernest Green $1.2 million and the backup's making $300,000, Ernest Green's going to start, okay, no matter how good the backup is. Now, that's not the case here. All Georgia offensive linemen are fairly well paid.
Plus, let's not forget that we're pretty much 13 months removed to where Monroe Freeling was one of these guys that everybody was talking about of we need him to play more. And Monroe Freeling has been a solid player for Georgia, has been a solid starter for Georgia. There's just kind of this stigma around him because he did play so poorly in the Notre Dame game. But then you find out, oh, he's going to miss time this spring because he needed surgery. He was banged up in that football game as well. So Monroe Freeling in the 2023 season, when he got thrown in against Vanderbilt as a true freshman, I mean, he played really well, and people were really excited about him. I think he was still really good for Georgia this past year, just had a few mishaps.
Also, shoulder surgery.
Yeah.
This offseason. Got ran around on his left shoulder in that Notre Dame game. Go turn the tape on against Tennessee from Monroe Freeling. Just do that. When he's fully healthy, see what he looks like, and you'll leave thinking what I thought. Holy hell, 57 might be a first-round draft pick pretty soon. Because he handled James Pierce. He looked like an extremely good athlete out in space, and he's showing the ability to grow in terms of a run game blocker. Like a lot of people off that Notre Dame game were like, oh, Monroe Freeling can't pass protect. It's the opposite. Monroe Freeling's a really good pass protector right now at this point in his career. It's the development in the run game, not playing over our toes, that is the concern for me moving in to 2025. Questions about whether or not I'm asked to toe the line. Do I toe any line?
No, not really.
Honestly, I think it's why a lot of companies are a little bit fearful of me at times because they don't know what I'm going to say. I don't toe any line. I say what I think and I say what I feel, and people are going to like it or dislike it. I don't know. Henry's basically saying, like, I spent years talking about Gunnar Stockton being a little bit suspect as a prospect, and now, you know, having no questions about whether or not he's the starter over Puglisi. I don't think that's a proper representation of how I've discussed the Gunnar Stockton future at the University of Georgia.
Well, I think
I started the eval saying he's not going to be a pocket passer. Like, I don't want you doing the Carson Beck offense with this guy. You're going to have to alter everything, but he's a competitor.
Yeah, and I think that any questions people had about Gunnar and his ability to start at the University of Georgia wasn't the questioning of his abilities. It was more so we just haven't seen it. We haven't seen him play a whole lot of college football, a few spring game reps here and there, and then some limited action against Florida State. Outside of that, going into this past year, it was – I mean, we have no idea. We really don't know. And that was the whole thing about after the Texas game is you got one half of Gunnar Stockton and you still really don't know. You still don't. Yeah. And it wasn't until the Notre Dame game that you kind of got some answers to these questions. And it looks like the talent is going to translate to this, and he is going to be a viable starter for Georgia. And now it's just a matter of what does 13 games of Gunnar Stockton look like? That's really the only remaining question.
I've gotten one phone call from the University of Georgia in 6 years. about an article that we released, and it was a hoops article. Is it? No, they don't. Now, if you out here wilding, your source book gonna get cut pretty damn quick. All right, but no, there is no towing of a company line here on this channel. Honestly, a little bit offended it got asked here. I think I've kind of been known as the guy that's a little bit edgy. I don't try to be. I think it's just the way it gets brought up. Can you explain the difference between pistol, shotgun, and etc.? What's the benefit/weakness of both? Let's take it to the board. All right, make sure you're hitting that thumbs up button, like, subscribe, and rate, reviewing, all that good stuff. All right, now, the simple question is who they think they are, the New York Jets. Now, that quote from Remember the Titans was the first shotgun offense, a little bit new to these folks here, and I think that movie was set in the 80s. Maybe?
I think.
70s? 70s. Either way, football, shotgun was relatively new to football about 40 years ago. Now, it's the home base of most offenses. Now, a standard shotgun is what I call side saddle, meaning the running back is either to the right or to the left in a sidecar position to the quarterback. If we were to take that guy, all right, and move him back behind the quarterback, now we are in what we call pistol formation. Now, what is ideal about pistol formation? Well, it gives us the home base of an I formation, right? Out of now shotgun, where most of these young quarterbacks are really, really comfortable playing, right? So we get the advantages of being 3.5 yards off of the line of scrimmage. We get the advantages of now no longer having to turn our back to the defense when we go to hand the ball off to the quarterback, all right, at the line of scrimmage, and then arriving with our eyes back to the defense at 7 yards. Now, if we were to put the ball into the belly of the back, we're at 3.5 yards, maybe 4 in some systems, probably 4 in most systems, all right? And then we're turning our back to the defense and arriving back at 7 yards, a much shorter time to turn our head around from the defense. Now, I would certainly be a shotgun formation football team out of pistol that also has some sense of under the center formations. Reason being, I don't want to declare any type of strength to my opponent, okay? And when we side saddle or when we sidecar like this, we are indicating strength. Now, there is a way to get away from this, right? There's a way to bust what we call tendencies around here. If we were to be in shotgun, all right, and we were to put the running back on the right, most defenses are going to play us with an over front. They're going to play the 3 technique opposite of the back, knowing that most offenses run running back on the right or running to the left. The way you bust that tendency, all right, is to have the running back take the mesh point right down the midline of the offense and then bend back if he has to. Saw Georgia do this a good bit this year as well, putting the running back on the right, giving a heavy mesh, and then working counter back this way, okay? So that is the difference between a regular standard shotgun and what we call pistol formation. Do you have a preference, Jonathan? Are you a side saddle guy? Would you be a pistol guy? Like I said, I'd be a pistol guy because it removes any indication of strength for us as an offense.
I don't know that I really have a preference. I guess, though, when I am playing college football, I prefer to be in a shotgun type formation, me personally at least.
Have you ever, let's see here. Let's try to get into these questions here. Make sure you're putting an actual question mark there, guys. As the chat starts to load up, I want to make sure I don't miss any of these. And the best indication of a question is indeed that question mark, okay? Punctuation important. Punctuality important around here. What role does the running backs coach play, if any, in collaboration with the offensive line coach to develop and work on run blocking scheme? How can Georgia improve the running game for 2025? So my impression of college football staffs, all right, if you don't have a designated run game coordinator, all right, if you don't have somebody with that title, 9 times out of 10, that title falls in the responsibility and in the lap of your offensive line coach. So your offensive line coach is likely to be implementing whatever run scheme that they most feel comfortable with coaching. And then it is your running backs coach's job to then coach your running backs up on what our keys and what our reads are now on this system. A prime example of this, all right, is, and one of the more innovative discussions I've had with a coach in recent memory was actually with Dale McGee. He's gone now, so I think I can reveal this this information. Basically, I had always been taught, like, if we're running inside zone, let's go back to the board. if we're running inside zone, we're going to read that first combination block, right? So like we showed you a little bit earlier, if we're inside saddle, okay, running back on the right of the quarterback, and we're running inside zone this way, we're probably going to get some type of 3 technique right here and some type of end here with the nose here and the end here. We are going to press that front side guard. All right, we're going to see, hey, does he create movement? If he does, we're sticking there. All right, if he gets reset on the line of scrimmage, our eyes immediately bounce back to cut back off that second combination block. Now, here's where things differ a little bit, the higher levels of football that you go. Not only in high school are we going to ask running backs to do that, but when they get to college as well, we're going to ask them to read the flow of these second-level defenders. If these second-level defenders start to really, really hunt play side, if they really start to flow this way, we're going to cut off those guys, okay? And undoubtedly, most of the time when we got 5 guys in the box and they got 6, a backside outside linebacker is probably running free, right? So that's why we're reading flow off these guys and deciding when to make cuts off those guys as well. So to answer your question, offensive line coach, unless you have a run game coordinator, offensive line coach probably installing the actual run plays. Running backs coach's job is to then take the running backs and teach them, hey, how exactly are we reading these? Where are our landmarks? Where are our keys? Where are our cutbacks? How is our offensive line actually going about blocking this? Okay, that's a good little rundown of responsibilities, if you will, when you get to college. Like I said, most offensive line coaches are run game coordinators. Like Sharon Moore. Sharon Moore was the offensive line coach at Michigan for the longest time, and he was the run game coordinator up there throughout their time. No matter, like, I think Josh Gaddis was the offensive coordinator up there for a little bit. He came down to a school in the ACC, and then they promote Sharon Moore. But even during Gaddis's time, or whoever it was, I think I'm misremembering names here. Whoever it was, Sharon Moore, as the offensive line coach, was running the run game install. Any thoughts on that? You seem busy over there. What's going
on? Georgia's baseball game on Thursday got moved to Friday due to weather, so I was writing that up.
Hell yeah. This man's just grinding. If you think you can come work for me and not be a lunatic that can handle like 19,000 things at once, you're just wrong. You're just wrong. Good way to spend my lunch. Question: what will it take for fans/media to stop questioning the Bobo experiment, or do you think it's just going to be an argument for the rest of time? It's going to be an argument for the rest of time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean, people are just going to shit on that guy until he wins a national title. Yeah. And even then, they're like, well, it's because everyone else was good, not because the coordinator.
And it does feel like that's the metric, because that's what Todd Monken did during his time at Georgia. And that's who he's constantly being compared to. And that's really the only offensive coordinator during Georgia's time over like the last 25 years that anybody is ever measuring anybody to, or will for the rest of time now, because Todd Monken was so successful. So that kind of is a measuring stick, as unfair as that is to say that if he wins a national title, then people will give him his respect. But I mean, that's what it took for Stetson Bennett to get any type of respect, was go and win a national title, but he had to even do it twice.
I don't want to reveal too many conversations, but like Monken had, it's not an easy job, but Monken had the best defense for 2 straight years that college football has seen in a long time. And like several like really good pros. I'm not talking about offensive lineman pros. He had those 2 and first round draft picks at offensive line. I'm talking about weapons that like went on to shatter NFL rookie records. I mean, just looking at rookie records that have been standing since the Ditka days. And Bowers is like, I'm way better than you. I'm way better than all of you. 1,100 yards year 1. All pro year 1. Lad McConkey. All right. Just a little short lunch pail guy. Don't even know how he fits in his uniform, said one NFL scout prior to a national title. Went on, 1,000 yards, I think, 900 yards. Yeah, just shredding NFL defenses. Now, we get labeled the defenders. All right, we get labeled Bobo defenders and all this good stuff. And like, I don't know what people expect other than a decline when the roster declines.
And I think that what should stick out specifically for us and about this channel is the questions will rise from us if what the film shows from Saturday warrants a question. Like if it warrants like changes, or like, I don't know what's going on here. Maybe someone else needs to be playing more, blah, blah, blah. Like, but when we're watching film after every single week, and especially after this past season, and the constant conclusion from us is we don't really get it. Like he's trying, he's doing his best. And now we were also fair in saying like we don't understand everything. Maybe would have liked to seen something different here. But I mean, I feel like we especially you have earned the respect enough of you should trust the opinion of what we're telling you from what the games show.
Worst game I think Mike Bobo called in the last 2 years was SEC championship game against Alabama, particularly the third and shorts. Had truck toss multiple times on third and short. Now, photographic football memory. Do you remember the SEC championship game in 2021 against Alabama? Got handled.
Yeah.
31-17, I think it was. 34-17, something like that. Todd Monken, ran mesh Z spot 3 times in a row on 3rd and 6. 3 possessions in a row, mesh Z spot, right over the ball, incomplete. One of them an interception back the other way. Nobody said a word. Nobody except for me. I came on here and I was like, whoa. You're repeating concepts, coach. You don't repeat concepts. What the hell's going on here? That's an error. Pointed it out. Mike Bobo did the same thing against Alabama 2 years later in a very different sense. 3rd and 2, tried to run truck toss multiple times, got shut down. Didn't cost you the game, but you were the most efficient third down football team in the sport in 2023. And you, for lack of a better term, sucked in that football game on 3rd down. Everybody was ready to fire Mike Bobo in that football game and has since continued that, despite the fact that he outdid all of the Monken numbers that year. I say that and I bring that back to you to just let you know, like, not every coordinator is perfect, but only certain coordinators get 100% of the smoke like Bobo does. I got people in the buildings that thought that I'm not gonna do that. Seth Collett says, is it ironic that dude, the buddy with the Texas Tech NIL sold his oil and energy company for $4 billion a week after that ESPN article?
$4 billion?
That's crazy.
Wow.
That's with a B?
Jeez.
That's Billy Vanilli?
You know what? All right. If I'm out here walking around selling something for $4 billion, maybe I would be doing what he did with ESPN, and I'd be talking like that. Because
now, granted,
Lord
it was the
mercy.
GM who's buddies with the billionaire, apparently, that was out here wilding. But good for him, man. Good for you.
Sheesh.
I mean, your grandkids got money.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Cool. I want a media rights deal for $4 billion. That's what I want. Let's see here. What's up with all these damn surgeries? Bad technique in the weight room or lifting too heavy? I know what it is. Do you know what it is?
I don't know.
Why are we having a rampant upcrease in lower body injuries and shoulder injuries in football?
I'd imagine because people are trying to stay away from the head.
Yeah, we took the head out of the sport. That's what we did. So all this rugby tackling we got going on now. Oh, I'm shocked that the high ankle sprains have gone up dramatically. All we're doing is wrapping and twisting legs up on ball carriers. We're no longer hunting the head. So we're hunting the legs, we're hunting the knees, we're hunting the ankles. When we get wrapped up, we're taught to alligator roll like they do out in Australian rugby. And we are leading to a lot more injuries in the lower half. And when we take the head out, when we start doing all this pseudo arm tackling, or at least putting all of the stress on the tackle on the wrap up, we got big physical football players running the ball, guys. You're going to get ran through a good bit. I started seeing AC joint sprains and torn labrums ad nauseum starting when I was in college. All of our linebackers had torn labrums by the end of the year. All of them. Because they'd been listening to Will Smith in the concussion movie tell us we're all going to die because we got CTE. So the whole sport and how we attack and how we go about things has drastically changed the injuries that are created. What do you think about Ty Simpson at Alabama? Tremendous processor, comes from a coaching background and was the highest rated prospect to come out at the quarterback position in Tennessee in like 20 years. 6'1", 215.
Mm-hmm.
Very underrated as an athlete, but is a processor at the position. I think he is a modern game manager. You know, that term used to get labeled it's just a negative. No, this is a guy that's going to make really, really good decisions. He's a minus athlete, and he's a really, really accurate thrower of the football with really, really good, clean mechanics and a really good thought process on how he sees the field. That's what the profile says. Now, he has very little to no college experience. So I said these things about Garrett Nussmeier, and he made a dozen "what the hell are you doing" type plays last year. I'm not saying Ty Simpson's going to avoid that in his first year starting. I just know that if I ask Ty Simpson to read this side of the field, okay, go from 1 to 2 to 3, 3's not open, check the ball down, I trust him to be able to do that far more than I did the last guy at Alabama that they had starting. I trusted the last guy that they had at Alabama to say, okay, I got a one-on-one shot there. If he don't win, I'm taking off and scrambling, or worse, doing something catastrophic with the football. This ain't going to be Ty Simpson. But you're not going to have I don't think you're going to have the tremendous ups I don't think you're going to rush for 360 yards on the road against LSU this year, okay? Or an example of that type of boom at Alabama. But I don't think you're going to have the lulls that you had offensively the last 2 years.
Do you think you could almost expect it to look like if Mac Jones had this type of wide receiver lineup? Like if he didn't have Devontae Smith and all the guys, if there's some lesser talent?
I expect it to look like whatever offense Kalen DeBoer thought he was going to put together with Will Rogers in Washington. Okay. With a lot better weaponry. And by the way, this is this guy's pedigree at the quarterback position. Mm-hmm. He wants a good athlete. He wants a good thrower of the football. He wants a great mind. That's what he wants. And ideally, you get Keelan Russell or you get Michael Penix, right? Those guys are A- to A, like 95s overall physically, with really, really good mental acumen of the sport. I think that's what you're searching for in that system with Kalen DeBoer and my man Ryan Grubb. Let's get to the Super Chub right here from Allenberry. Let's say the offense does seem up and down this year. Does Bobo get a pass because of the new quarterback and an iffy offensive line? And is this a prove it type of year? I think it's hilarious. You think Bobo would ever get any type of leniency here, excuse making. The idea that you think, I mean, if for Christ's sakes, his wide receivers led the nation in drops this year and people were still ready to fire him.
Mm-hmm. I will say, I believe I said this the other day on the show if something doesn't shake this year, like if you don't see some improvements this year and it doesn't at least feel like you're in a much better, or I shouldn't say much better spot, but if you don't feel like the offense is now leading back into a better direction, I do think some criticism can be said at that point, because this is you would be going into year 4 now under Mike Bobo and year 3 rule type thing. So I do think that this, not necessarily a prove it year, because Mike Bobo is a proven guy in college football. He's been around the sport for a very, very, very long time. But if you're going to talk about the University of Georgia and you want to capitalize off of whatever remaining years you have of Kirby Smart and whatever else you have on this roster and this wide receiver class that you just brought in this past year, it does feel like that maybe this would be like not necessarily a defining year, but I guess a deciding year.
Seth Collette says, we know you're deep state for 2025. To hell with them Texas Tech Red Raiders. Who is your fighting Kenny Dillinghams for 2025? We're going to have to sniff that one out week 1. Week 1, week 2. And here's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for lunch pail. I'm looking for gritty. I'm looking for they're going to fight to the death for 4 quarters. That's what I'm looking for. It might be Arizona State again this year. I don't know who it's going to be, but I'm looking for some gritty lunch pail guys. Also, led by a head coach who will never, ever throw his players under the bus. So we're going to keep riding that Hugh Freeze deep state as well. We haven't proclaimed that one yet, but you just wait. You just wait for Hugh Freeze to come out and throw Jackson Arnold under the bus, and I can't wait for it, Bubba. I can't wait for it. I'm gonna cook his ass.
Maybe some Fighting Illini.
I can't buy into Bielema ball, dude. That shit's gross. Bielema gonna try to go 10-2 this year, winning by a score of 21-13. Just ISO balling, 13 personnel, heavy, ugly, gross. Shorten the game, try to get Luke Altmaier to a total of 220 yards passing, and we got to win. That's what Illinois football this year is going to be. And no, I ain't buying into that one. No, I also, it's not just the grittiness. I got to enjoy rooting for you.
Yeah.
I also got to enjoy watching you play. I ain't going to enjoy watching Illinois play this year, unfortunately. As much as I do love, real gap sound football, downhill, run it at your face football. Come on, miss me with that one. Let's see here. We're not furthering any conversation on the fine ball topics. Sorry. Let's see here. Has there been any news about the recovery of the injured running backs? I think most of that will start leaking out in spring practice, which, by the way, we're really close.
Mm-hmm.
We're under 3 weeks from spring ball. I hope you guys know that. Based off numbers, doesn't seem like it. Okay, you guys are still enjoying your offseason, but that's okay. That's okay. Jared Curtis to X team. Who are your top two you would like to see end up at UGA at quarterback? So this is a loaded question because Georgia obviously has their board and I have mine. I've settled in on who I'm going after if I miss out on Jared Curtis. Do you remember who it is?
I don't think
He's an
so.
Arkansas commit. I'm going after Javon Gilmore out of Gaffney, South Carolina. 6'6", 200 pounds, tremendous thrower of the football. An absolute dotter. I mean, this guy can rip it. I have my questions about the rest of the class. I think Seaborn's in this class now out of Thompson. Okay. I'm not selling my soul to sign Trent Seaborn this year. Landon Duckworth, the kid out of Mobile, is really highly touted. Very, very raw football player. I would go after Javon Gilmore personally. Now, Georgia hasn't even offered the guy. He's an Arkansas commit. In fact, when I brought him up to Georgia, I'm like, I differ in opinions. Okay, I do. I differ in opinion from how I would view the rest of the class, but I also understand the blue chip status that Jared Curtis is. I understand that this is a very, very special, unique throw of the football. And if anybody in Jared's camp listening, you better go to the Elite 11 just so I can see you. Just so I can see you against everybody else, because I've been seeing you just torch Timmy and Tyler for 4 years now in high school football. And other than the fact that you've got a really talented arm, buddy, I don't know anything about you as a football player, and I hope to find out a little bit more at the Elite 11, because the level of comp, it's like single A high school football. Whatever this private league out in Tennessee is, it's not very good football.
No.
And it's not a knock on him. I'm just telling you as an evaluator, it's the transitioning into college for me is very, very hard, other than just saying, oh, he's 6'3", 225 and can spin it. So can Ryan Puglisi.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Maybe not at the rate that this guy's apparently heralded at, but just being a talented thrower of the football is like one of the 1,700 boxes we have to check as a quarterback. Thoughts on that?
I mean, obviously, it's just like I think the quarterback class is completely different than what you have. Well, in some regard, of like Jared Curtis is obviously the number one, but you still have some really solid options at the position where we talk about some other positions in the class, and it drops off quickly. Now, Jared Curtis might be that good to where it is that big of a drop off, and I think that's one thing you kind of learn as the offseason progresses for high school recruits is you kind of learn more about the class. You start digging a little bit more. Kids start going to events, and these football programs get these kids on campus, and you learn more and more. So it will be interesting to follow. But, I mean, Jared Curtis obviously would be the number one option.
Matt Landry asked, other than outside zone, what are some run plays that Georgia can install that complements their skill set and scheme? Maybe wham, maybe adding gaps to play side with the tight end inserts. Okay, yeah. I love the way that most offenses are inserting H-backs over the last couple of years, particularly Tennessee. What Tennessee did this last year with, I mean, they got to a point where they were running super counter. They're pulling guard, pulling tackle, wrapping tight end. We're down blocking 3 people on the front side surface, taking 3 people from the back side of the surface and adding them now onto the front side. That was tremendous to watch. I do think outside zone, you mentioned it. In my opinion, outside zone has to be implemented this year because you're not as talented up front as you have been in the years of 2019 to 2022. Okay, those offensive lines at Georgia were incredible with really, really high-end NFL talent. It's not just like guys that are going to play. It's about guys that were top 60, top 90 evals in the upcoming NFL drafts. They went 5 years in a row with a first-round draft pick at the offensive tackle position. That's a long, lengthy career or lineage of really, really great high-end tackles. They don't necessarily have that right now moving forward. So I do think that I wouldn't get too crazy with the wham stuff. I think if you as an offensive coordinator walked into Kirby Smart's office and was like, hey, we're gonna run wham this week. We're gonna block down, pull around, and we're gonna take these two guys and we're gonna wham over here. Kirby's gonna be like, why are you getting all tricky? Why are you getting all fancy? This is Georgia football.
Mm-hmm.
We're gonna stick our hand in the dirt. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I think you even like hear it. We gotta get back to Georgia brand of football. Remember that a couple of years ago? We gotta get back to Georgia football, running at these folks. Next thing you know, 14 attempts against Kentucky, run it 60 times.
Love that.
Yeah, I do think there is an identity of your football coach that is far more physical over creative.
Yeah, for sure.
He wants to be physical. He doesn't want to be. He doesn't care for creativity on the offensive side of the football.
And I mean, I think the fan base does too, because whenever you see like conversations of like, oh, Georgia's struggling against Kentucky, I mean, the first point that is made of our talent on our roster is way better than theirs. We should just be able to line up and play some football. Like, I think that Georgia fans also cater to that as well, because if you are able to do that, and you can, when you recruit the way that Georgia does, it typically means you're pretty dominant on a weekend-to-weekend basis.
Marion Campbell says maybe the skinny ankle thing will be on the outs. Never. We're hunting skinny ankles till the rest of time, Bubba. Ain't no doubt about it. What's the over-under on Colorado's wins this year? 3 or 4?
I'd have to look at the schedule. Let me pull that up.
Yeah, I don't know. I was very curious about the Caden Salter thing. I figured you did what you had to do to sign Julian Lewis so you could run him out there year one and excuse all the losing with a starting freshman quarterback. But you pay for Caden Salter to come in, and it kind of alters expectations.
Off rip, the games that I would kind of highlight for them are Georgia Tech to open it up. Then you got BYU at home, Iowa State at home, Utah on the road, Arizona State at home, and Kansas State to close out the season on the road.
Is it another 6-6 year? I think Vegas has it set at 5.5.
Yeah, I'd almost say like 6 wins, because I mean there's Delaware, Houston, Wyoming, Arizona, West Virginia. Like, those are 5 games that feel very winnable as of right now. Just kind of know, and I don't know a whole lot about Colorado's roster right now other than Caden Salter and some other guys that are remaining. But right now, those feel like if you had to pick 5 games, those would be the 5 that I pick for them right now.
Now, Jonathan, we finna take a ride up I-75 next week, all the way to the beautiful town of Indianapolis, Indiana. And it's gonna be snowing.
Like snow?
I think so. Chat says it's plum snowing here in North Carolina. It says plum dog. So it's getting after it. And we're gonna be in a rental car. Maybe cancel the rental car, take the big truck.
I don't know.
I don't either. I mean, it's only like 400 miles.
I mean, very different type of environment up there in regards to how you prepare for snow. I mean, they got the snow plows, they got all the equipment to make sure that those roads are nice and prepared for when the snow rolls in.
My favorite viral video of the year was Florida Department of Transportation's salting the road. Did you see that?
Yes.
It was a dude sitting on the back of a truck rolling down the road, just kind of like sprinkling salt out on the road. They fit to get 4 inches.
Like,
buddy, that's not how that works.
Like, we hear half an inch of snow here, and it's like, oh my God, close it all down, go buy all the bread and milk you can, even if it's just for one day. Whereas up there, they know what they're doing. So I would imagine, we're on I-75, major highway. I think we're going to be all right, even if we are in a little tiny sedan.
Bigger Chooch, Puglisi or Curtis? Are we talking like distance? Are we talking arm talent? Because I think arm talent wise is probably Curtis. But if you put him on a gun, probably Puglisi.
Yeah.
Puglisi's got an absolute hand cannon. Now, it's the refinement that has always been the question. Like, even when we went out to the elite level, you were there with me that year, right?
No, I have not been to that event yet.
That's why. It's because it's an expensive trip. I mean, it cost me way too much money to go out there every year. But anyways, even when we were out there at the Elite 11, you could tell, okay, like some of these layered throws, not your bag right now.
Yeah.
But I would argue that Puglisi has not rebuilt his throw motion, but his throw motion has become much more fluid and less stiff and far more rotational than it was linear. coming out of high school. Coming out of high school, he could really stand on it when the feet are in the ground and really try to yank down on footballs. I don't see that as much now, especially with some of the viral clips we've seen come out of him lately.
It was like the antithesis of watching Dylan Raiola's high school film.
Facts.
Raiola's was very loose. Everything was deep. Everything, like nothing was, if I had to stand on it and rip this ball, there was none of that on his tape. And then you go turn Ryan Puglisi's high school film on, and he's ripping every single ball that he can. There's no touch on this ball because he just wants to rip everything. And I think that both, now that they're in both into now, Raiola has a starting year under him, but I think they're both kind of meeting that middle ground a little bit.
Now, Navy guy, our resident Tennessee fan that's always in the chat, you took that as a slight, okay, that I didn't mention Faison Brandon in that quarterback discussion around Jared Curtis and what would you do after missing him. Georgia ain't even trying to bother with Faison Brandon right now. Neither is anybody else, I don't believe. They know Tennessee's got that thing locked up. All right. And Tennessee, I love what Heupel's been doing lately. Not lately. It's been 4 years now at the quarterback position. Very early on in the process, he identified who he wants, and they go land that sucker. There ain't no missing on this. All right. Now, they took a year off after Nico. They signed the kid out of Calvary Day.
Yes. I can't think of his name
Mettenberg,
right now.
Probably not going to play for him.
Merklinger.
That's a Jake Merklinger out of Calvary Day. They signed that guy in 2024. Jake's good, okay? But Jake is hey, be a serviceable backup on our roster. Don't ever leave us. You'll be a legend in Tennessee Volunteer family the rest of your life. You'll always have a job here in Knoxville. That's what Jake Merklinger's career looks like. Outside of that, every other class, they're like, that's our guy. We know he's our guy. Let's do everything we can do to get him.
And they get him.
And other than, I mean, it's almost like Lincoln Riley gets this approach and gets this favor in recruiting circles. If you talk to, if you like listen to Steve Whitflong talk about Lincoln Riley, he'll say that, oh, Lincoln only has one guy and he goes and gets him. And they don't recruit anybody else. They don't take visits from anybody else. It's ventured into that for Tennessee now and Josh Heupel.
Yeah, I mean, the only time that I can recall of Lincoln Riley missing on one of his guys that he kind of tabbed early on was when Brock Vandegrift decommitted and then went to Georgia. That's like the only. And
then he backed it up with signing Caleb Williams.
Yeah, so like even did. I mean, it didn't even matter in the end of it.
Not bad. Not a bad one there. Let's see here. With the way Gunner plays, do you think Puglisi will be ready if and when his name is called? Yeah, he was ready this year. Yeah. I mean, Gunner went down and he was about to run in the SEC championship game.
Yeah, if you're Ryan Puglisi, you almost can't have a moment on the sideline when Georgia's on offense where you can't have your helmet not in your hand. Because as we saw in the SEC championship game, we're one play away from Gunner's head getting taken off or his helmet popping off. He's got to come out for a play. You got to roll in there. So, yeah, you got to be ready at all times just because of this dude is not going to shy away from anything. He's going to take contact, and he's going to play football like he always has.
I don't even know how to pronounce that name. Do you want to give a shout out at it? Yada Dabba 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 says, if you were a Buckeye tuber,
Flintstone?
You'd have more than 100 people in here. Just saying. How do we address that one? We're college football tubers, YouTubers. We're college football YouTubers who will always show loyalty to the people who started us. Okay. This channel was nothing but a Georgia football channel for the first 3 or 4 years of its existence. To about 20,000 subscribers, all we did was talk Georgia football. The rest of the growth has come portionally from Georgia fans, but most of it, but the growth over the last calendar year has been from our efforts on the national front. Now, I will never just do Ohio State stuff, but shit, I mean, we spent a week talking Ohio State coaching changes on this network, so we're trying everything we can to grow. What we're not going to do is abandon the base that started us. And look, this isn't a newfound thing in content creation. Everyone's got a home base. Everyone does. Okay. Some of my founding people that I watched growing up and have become pinnacles in the sports content creation is a show like Dan Le Batard. Okay. A little behind the scenes pull for you guys. I've listened to Le Batard since 2014 religiously. Now I have fallen off tremendously over the last 2 or 3 years with the, just absolute inundation we've had with content creation on this forefront. I don't listen to a lot of other people, but Le Batard started as a Miami-based network. They talked Miami sports ad nauseum. They did it so well that ESPN hired them to be a national-based show. However, they started every hour, every show, talking Miami sports, and then transitioned into a national hour. We are attempting a very similar scale growth here in the college football network. And how we do it is we talk all things college football for an hour, 3 hours a week, adding on to this, 3 hours a week during the offseason, 4 hours a week during the regular season, okay? And we also add on just as much local coverage on the Georgia forefront. I think it's our best approach. And it's worked for us this year. I can't wait to see what it does for us in the fall. And the way we go about it is we approach newfound fan bases with film first. Okay, we're going to bring you film. I believe that's why Yabba Dabba Doo is even in here. You probably watched us break down some Ohio State film and was like, you know what? Those guys seem to know football. I might listen to their radio show, or might listen to their podcast, or might listen to their live stream. That's the attempt at growth here. Other than that, we're just praying that the YouTube algorithm puts us in front of people. And that's it. Because what we don't have is a massive company pushing behind us right now, right? There's no FanDuel attached here. There's no DraftKings attached here. There's no CBS, ESPN attached here. There's no Barstool attached here. It's just us, okay? And we're trying to grow it as far as we can. So I hope you guys can enjoy our attempts at growth without hating on us too much for, alienating anybody. I don't think we're trying to do that.
Just go tell your friends.
A stud, they say. Navy guy thinks Merklinger's a stud.
A stud you may never see.
I think Merklinger's serviceable backup that you'll never see. Again, that's a good one. Wasn't the OSU fan base calling Ryan Day to you probably shouldn't read that one.
Good cutoff.
Yep, my bad. Let's see here. All right. What kind of season do we expect Carson Beck will have at Miami? You think they just let him sling it and try to win a Heisman?
Yeah.
That's what you think?
If I'm paying that guy that much money, yeah, I'm going to be making you sling it on Saturdays. What else are they going to do? They got Fletcher. Is that who they have at running back?
Mark Fletcher, and a guy that's starting over Mark Fletcher, a sophomore, number 21. I think Doyle. Something like that.
I mean, just in my –
oh, good neck pop. Oh, that was delightful. I felt that in the plums. What's up?
Just based on the process of events of what Miami did with Cam Ward, and then Carson Beck entering the NFL draft, then deciding to transfer, going to Miami, feels like he's got to improve his draft stock, needs another year of college football. This massive contract and this massive amount of money comes out about what it took for them to get Carson Beck to go there. All of those types of things for me point toward Carson Beck is going to be throwing the football a lot for the Hurricanes this year. Now, the antithesis to that statement is I don't know what the wide receiver room looks like. I really don't know what the direction of that unit is for them. I know that Nye Carr is still there, and they usually nab a couple guys out of the portal, it seems like, but I don't really know much outside of that for them.
All right, they took 70 offensive snaps per game last year. They threw it 37 times, ran it 33 times. That stagger of 4 pass attempts more than rushing attempts, I think Georgia threw it more than I know they did. They threw it more than they ran it this year. I don't think he's going to chunk it far more than he did this year at Georgia.
Oh, I don't think he's going to be ripping it like 50 times.
I expect like 69% completion percentage, 3,900 yards, maybe 4,000, and 28 touchdowns to like 7 interceptions. I don't expect him to turn it over at the high rate he did this year.
No.
Because half of them weren't even his fault at Georgia.
Very clearly felt like an outlier for him. Just watching 2023 Carson Beck and 2024 Carson Beck was like a night and day difference. It was just felt completely different.
All right, let's see here. Who's the best weapon at Miami? It's the I wrote his name down last night. It's the Josiah Trader. Josiah Trader is their best returning wide receiver. And then after that, it's I think they brought in a transfer and Nye Carr. Will you get our lads pulled up?
That's what I'm doing right now. Oh, that's the Dolphins.
That'll do it. I think they're relying heavily on Josiah Trader this year. And they signed some 2024-5 guys that they expect to play too.
Looks like they got CJ Daniels, who is a grad transfer. Malachi.
That's the guy that went to Liberty, then went to LSU, then went to Miami.
Yeah. You're right. They also looks a freshman is listed as a starter of Malachi Toney. And then Nikar is the backup X, another freshman as a backup, another freshman as a backup. So it's a young unit.
I mean, the whole narrative right now is that Carson Beck was failed by his weaponry last year at Georgia.
Mm-hmm.
So unless Josiah Trader is the next coming of Xavier Restrepo, which he might be, he had a good season last year.
Yeah.
You're like hoping Nikar's a thing.
Mm-hmm.
Nikar played 3 games last year for Miami, I think.
Yeah, he's a redshirt.
Yeah. Woo. They got good offensive line, though.
Yeah.
I mean, good offensive line. You got Francis Moega over at right tackle, a returning transfer over at left tackle that's 6'9", 390 pounds. Samson Aklun-Lola is his backup, correct?
Yes.
And then they signed James Brockermeyer,
Mm-hmm.
who's on his 3rd stop. James Brockermeyer went to Alabama with his brother Tommy, the 5-star left tackle that didn't turn out to be anything. They both went to TCU, and now Brockermeyer's down in Miami. So, again, like, this is my overarching point about all of college football this next year. And it's why I think everyone wants to remember the great days of old school college football, where there were these 2 perfect teams that are going to go 13-0 and then meet up in the Orange Bowl and play for a national title. Those days of college football are gone, I think. I think the days of assuming that we're going to have 2 or 3 undefeated perfect teams worthy of a national title are gone. We have so many questions around all of college football right now. Clemson is the odds-on favorite to win the ACC, and nobody sitting here today thinks Clemson's the best team in college football.
Mm-hmm.
All right? Look at the SEC right now. Who's going to win it? People think Texas. People think Georgia. Some people think Alabama. Some people think – they all got questions all across college football. Ohio State's got 7 defensive starters to replace, 4 of them on the front of their defensive line. Got a quarterback to replace. One of their best wide receivers in the history of the school in Emeka, gone. Tight end G. Adams, gone. This is all across football. Oregon, preseason, projected to go 13-0 because their schedule is dog shit. They've got to work in Dante Moore, a starting quarterback, for the first time. Ain't played since his freshman year. Ain't played in 18 months. And when he did, didn't look very good. Got set at UCLA because he was throwing interceptions that cost football games. This is where football is. And this was my overarching point last night. Your days of dreaming that 2 13-0 football teams are going to meet up and they're the perfect matchup in a national title in the old BCS era, that does not exist anymore. I'm just telling you it doesn't. In my opinion, it doesn't. And the landscape of football tells me it doesn't either.
Mm-hmm. Wholeheartedly agree.
Tough Stuff keeps asking this, so I'm going to readdress it, and I'm going to tell you I can't remember. Maybe you do. Who's the 2026 linebacker from Texas that you think we did a film study on a couple weeks ago? Do you remember the name? I can pull it up because I have the board. I just got to go find it.
I don't remember the name, actually.
Give me 30 seconds. Maybe a little bit longer. Can you fill for me here?
Yeah, I can. I do agree, and this is what you and I were kind of talking about before the show, kind of going back to your previous point that you were discussing of rivalry. Like Christian was making the point of the Iron Bowl being this great rivalry because it decided the West a whole bunch of years. And I understand that maybe now you don't like, but rivalry games that decided playoff implications in years past, like that's a very small select few of rivalry games. That's like a very it was if Georgia was in a game, it was going to have playoff implications. If it was Alabama, it was going to, or if it was Clemson, or if it was Ohio State or Michigan, like those games had those types of stakes every single weekend. But that's a very small select. Like all the other rivalry games still matter because there's hate. The fans care. The fans have pride. Like it still matters to people.
100%. All right, I got the board here. Now the player we watched a couple weeks ago was Malik Morris, a linebacker out of Lakeland, Florida. I'm looking at the board here, and I think they just offered a kid out of Texas, but the only kid on the board I'm looking at is Jamarian Phillips from South Oak Cliff out in Texas. But no, the board starts and ends with Tyler Atkinson, and after that, it's hey, who else can we add to this room that's super, super deep? Let's see here. What do you think UGA's running back depth chart will be? Nate Frazier, the rest?
Nate Frazier, and then it's a matter of
Who's healthy?
who gets healthy first between Branson and Roderick. Or actually, I can take it back. It's going to be Nate Frazier, then Cash Jones right now. And then the third spot is going to be who gets healthy first between Roderick Robinson and Branson Robinson.
Why so much smoke online about Puglisi starting next year? That's an obvious one. Talented thrower. That's all it takes.
Talented backup.
Talented thrower and be the backup, and people will want you to play. That's just the way it works. In college football, that's not just Georgia. That's every fan base.
Yeah.
Every fan base, the grass always greener on the other side.
I mean, Texas just did it for the last 2 years.
Yeah, probably rightfully so. But yeah, no, this is the byproduct of being the backup. And this is so true in college football that Blue Mountain State nailed this 15 years ago. All right. Blue Mountain State's main character, Alex Moran, was what? He was the backup quarterback. And his life became hell the moment he became the starter because everybody wanted the next guy, you know, and they knew it. FX knew it about college football fans 15 years ago. And it's only become worse now since, you know, social media has become rampant. That video of Puglisi throwing moon balls, that went viral 18 months ago.
Yeah.
And it's back on the timeline. And everybody's like, hey, quarterback battle inbound. He's talented. And there's going to be some sense of a quarterback battle. But I do believe that when you recruit and you stack quarterbacks at the rate that a program like Georgia does, or a program like Ohio State does, or a program like Alabama does, you are best served to make sure that older guy gets an opportunity to play his way into the NFL draft, and then the next guy comes up. Alabama's going to have this year. You watch. If Ty Simpson struggles at all, people are going to be clamoring for Keelan Russell.
Yep.
Right on it. Now, they're going to bypass Austin Mack. They're going to bypass the rest of the room, and they're going to say, give me the true freshman, because he, you know, had a great career at Duncanville and was a highly touted player coming out of high school. So let's see here. Where's the disconnect between Will Howard and big boards? I like his tape. The inconsistencies, the highs of Will Howard are great. Tremendous, accurate thrower of the football. I believe he led the nation in completion percentage this year, or was at least top 5. And he's probably behind Shadur Sanders at Colorado. I think Shadur completed 73% of his passes.
I believe Shadur broke the college football record for completion percentage.
Yeah, so he had it. And then right after that was Will Howard. I think Will Howard's north of 70% this year.
Mm-hmm.
But I do believe it's the ups and downs otherwise when you go to turn the tape on. I would be very fearful of drafting a guy like Will Howard when I watch what they did with him the first 7 or 8 weeks. And then the last 5 weeks of the season, they were like, oh, Jeremiah Smith's good. This is news to us.
Mm-hmm.
Just design an offense around this guy. So, yeah, I think that would be the cause for concerns. And just the 2,800-yard seasons at Kansas State are probably like, oh, we think you're a runner, not a passer.
And there's not like one thing that really sticks out about Will Howard's game where it's like super elite right there. It's just like good across the board, I guess.
Is Georgia maintaining their home win streak this year? Who gives them the hardest challenges? Alabama and Texas at home?
Yeah, I'd say Texas is the hardest.
Yeah.
But
you might want to switch cameras there, B.
Well, I was just getting a quick hitter right there.
I just wanted to fix my hat.
Oh.
No, I think it's Alabama and Texas. We'll see after that. I do believe JoJo Trader is going to be really good. The Josiah Trader kid at Miami. I think that was him he's one of the most insane highlight clips I've seen from a sideline camera. I can't remember who they were playing last year, but he catches an arrow out in the flat, and he immediately puts the brakes on, makes a guy fall, and he hits a Spider-Man on the guy, and then turns around and looks at him, then makes another guy miss, and as he's running into the end zone, he looks at the camera on the sideline and points back at the guy like, can you believe the nerve on this dipshit to try to tackle me? So, yeah, he's got some swag about him. I think he's going to be really, really good. It's just a matter of the rest of the unit. When we're relying on 4 freshmen and a red shirt in our 2 deep,
yeah,
that's thin. That's as thin as it can be at a wide receiver position for a team that has that much NIL capabilities.
No doubt.
Joey Walraven says, what high school player blew you away the most on your first and only time seeing them in person? This is an easy answer for me.
I don't have too much experience for myself on the trail.
Oh, I know who you're going with.
But yeah, it's Juan Gaston for me. That's super nice and easy of seeing that guy in person, being field level. Westlake walks out of their locker room to warm up. Oh, there's Juan Gaston. That one's not hard to miss at all.
No, it's not. For me, it was Broderick Jones. Seeing Broderick Jones as a high school senior at 6'5", 270 pounds, move like an NFL tight end was the scariest thing to me I'd ever seen. He was working out with my man, Coach Kev, Big Kev. I think Broderick was his first like real big prospect that he trained, and now he trains them all basically. And I remember him doing a drill where he was basically walking hurdles with Broderick, trying to open up his hips. And seeing the looseness of that athlete and knowing how explosive and how strong he was, knowing that he's one of the best power forwards in the state too in high school basketball. I'll never forget watching that dude move the day that I first saw him. And it was during COVID. It's one of my favorite recruiting stories because I probably shouldn't have been where I was, but it's a byproduct of me. Like I'm going to go and make you tell me to leave. And Kevin invited me out. And I go out there and it's dead heat of COVID. So you're not supposed to be out in public. Public areas were being maintained by police officers, making sure people weren't out there. It's a very weird time in our world. And I go out there and we're in the middle of DeKalb County near Lithonia High School. And we're working out. I'm watching them on filming, watching these guys work out. And all of a sudden a police officer pulls up, lights on, but not the sirens, just lights on, letting us know, hey, we're about to have a conversation with the police officer. And then all of a sudden, he comes over the intercom. Is that you, Broderick? And Broderick waves at the police officer. And he's like, y'all keep doing what you're doing. And then he pulls up off the lot. And I was like, oh, this is what it means to be the most important player in the county that they've seen in 5-6 years. So, yeah, and I remember going on Fox 5 when they actually invited me. I remember going on Fox 5 and my man was like, hey, what do you think of this Broderick Jones guy? And I said, verbatim, if he does what he's supposed to do, he will be 100% a lock to be a first-round draft pick.
And he was.
So, yeah, that one for me. Biggest miss for me, probably Brock Vandegrift. How heavily I was in on that one. I compared him to Joe Burrow with a little bit of Andrew Luck.
Some big names.
It's a miss. Now, I learned a lot. Through that evaluation process about making sure you understand what high school quarterbacks are being asked to do. Not what they are doing and how well they're doing it, but what they are being asked to do. And what he was being asked to do is find Logan Johnson. And I failed to realize that in high school. So that was on me. But the physical profile of that player was phenomenal. Somebody asked earlier about, is Georgia going to be a 12 or 13 personnel football team this year? I think Georgia's a 12 personnel football team for the remainder of time. I think they might be in 11 personnel more than they are in 12 personnel. Like in 2023, they were labeled a 12 personnel team. They were in 11 personnel 71% of the time per my sourcing. I don't know what the split was last year because we don't have advanced analytics like that, but they do. You're just going to be a more tight end heavy, especially if you do what I think you're going to do in 2026.
Well, especially now that you have a guy like Elias Williams on the roster, and that may not occur like this year because he is just a true freshman, but you have another one of those types, and you're also kind of still learning like what Elias Williams is going to turn into in college. But I mean, you got some big boys in that room.
Nick Carwell says, what's up with Anthony Davis, kid from Grayson? Seems like a really good player to me, a 4-star linebacker, but I don't think UGA is after him. He's on their board. I don't think they've offered officially. I don't know what the hesitation is. I think Anthony is slightly undersized for what they do at Georgia. If my memory serves me correctly, I think he's a 6'1", 210-pound linebacker when they're normally 6'2", 220 plus.
6'2", 200.
A little light. Okay, and that's 24/7, 6'2".
Yeah,
they probably 6'1". So yeah, I think that might be the limitations there. But he's a great football player. There's no doubt about that. He's going to be a Power 5 football player. Probably going to end up in the SEC, I would imagine. Record prediction for Auburn next season. I know people aren't high on Jackson, but he has some real weapons to work with. Let's take a look at this Auburn schedule right quick. Why do I have 16 text messages?
A few of them are from me and Kirby.
Okay. That scares me. When I see that, I'm like, uh-oh, I missed something. Let's see. Their football schedule right here. Let's go through it. Wins and losses. Great radio segment right here. Let's predict them in February. All right. Opening day game against Baylor at Waco.
That's dub.
That's a
Baylor's
dub.
been down, dude.
Calling it. Baylor finished strong. Gave
on.
Aranda the tweet of confidence.
Nah, man.
Baylor fought towards the end of the year last year, Bubba.
They finished 8-5.
Started like 3-5.
They finished 81st in opponents' points per game.
Okay. We're going to give them a dub?
I'm going to give them a dub.
Give them the dub at home against Ball State.
Hey, Hugh Freeze is due for one of these.
All right, let's go ahead and give them 3 dubs to start because
Yeah.
they got South Alabama at home the next week. All right. So
3-0.
they're 3-0. Maybe 2-1. Wouldn't be surprised 2-1. All right, at Oklahoma.
Oof.
Mateer versus Arnold. The coming home game for Jackson Arnold.
Where's this at?
At Oklahoma.
I'll give it to Oklahoma.
All right, so we're 3-1.
Yeah.
All right, at Texas A&M.
A&M.
3-2. All right, Georgia at home.
Georgia.
3-3. All right, Missouri at home. We'll give
Auburn.
it to you. 4-3. At Arkansas. We'll give it to you.
I'll give it to Auburn.
5-3. Kentucky at home. We'll give it to you. 6-3. At Vandy.
At Vandy. Diego Pavia's still there.
I
Hugh
feel
Freeze
nut-
can't figure
I
him
feel
out.
crazy even debating it. I'm gonna give it to you.
Yeah, I'll give it to
7-4. Mercer at home. 8-4. I'll give you a loss to Alabama at home. 8-5.
How are they 8-5 in the regular season? How do we miscount? We miscounted somewhere, but 8 wins. So 8-4.
8-4. Not bad.
Not bad at all. That's
No.
that's what I was gonna say is 8-4. That's what it feels like.
Go 7-5, sweating it a little bit.
Yeah.
Go 7-5, sweating it a little bit. All right. After Tyler Atkinson, who are the most must-haves in-state talent for UGA? Pro throws definitely up there. You know, I don't know if they view Jay Lamar as a must-have right now, considering Savion Hyder's the number 1 running back on the board. I don't know if they view, especially because Jay Lamar in-state at running back, the running back out of Colquitt. You know, there's guys like Carson Baker in-state that they like a lot as well. But that one's in the mix for Ohio State, Ole Miss. There's a lot of people in the mix for Carson Baker, just like Jay Lamar. I think based off what Lamar has said, he's the number 1 guy on their board. Now, I don't know if every kid gets that message, but he feels as if he is the priority at the position. After that, I don't feel that way about anybody on the offensive line. I don't feel that way about anybody on the defensive line. I don't feel that way about anybody at corner other than Jordan Edmonds, who they don't feel that way about. Has he committed to Alabama yet?
Let me check. I didn't see anything.
That's supposed to
yet.
go down today. At least his commitment date was set for today, maybe this afternoon. But I don't feel that way about anybody in state. And that's kind of, it goes back to that conversation we've had ad nauseum on this channel. The in-state product this year in 2026 is just not as good as it has been in years prior.
No official commitment yet.
Okay. Is there a time set on that?
I don't see a ticker or anything right now.
All right, we got a super chub from Cody Strickland. Says, if you can make one coaching change to Georgia for last season, personnel or play calling, what would you change?
Will Muschamp still being co-DC?
I like that. I like that.
Nice and simple.
That's a good one. That's awesome. Yeah, we had people wanting to fire Glenn Schumann this year. I mean, just
man.
Hey, Brooks, how crazy is the fan base you cover? Well, they once tried to fire Glenn Schumann. Holy hell. Which freshman do you think pop off during Georgia's spring game?
Freshman.
Give me a Taylor Taylor.
Taylor Taylor.
Give me a Taylor Taylor. Easier to get the slot receiver weapons with young quarterbacks than it is the X outside.
Give me a Zayden Walker. That's a good
like
one,
that.
I think.
And Elias Williams is going to get pubbed because he's huge.
Oh, Elijah Griffin for sure.
Oh, yeah, duh.
Uh,
Elijah Griffin is the most important freshman they've had in a while.
Definitely going to be one.
That dude's going to play a lot this year, I think. They're going to need him to play a lot this year.
Mm-hmm.
Also going to be the best everywhere 92. Isn't that what we
Heard it
found
here
out?
first.
Anywhere 92?
Heard it here first.
Yeah. So, yeah, heard it here first. There we go. Baylor nice as F. For real?
What you know?
What you know that I don't know?
They
We're
got
going to
that-
find out
hey,
about that.
That shiplap money.
I think
It's
I
a
know
real
who
thing.
that is. I think I know who that is. It's probably one of my friends that ended up on that staff out there at Baylor. Sneaking in. No, I'm just kidding. What's Indiana's record going to be this year? Question I thought I'd never have to address.
Hell if I know.
Yeah. Hey, that's your boy Mendoza. Y'all
It
be
is
all
my
over
boy
that
Mendoza.
stock, man.
12-0.
12-0. Now, did the Big Ten repeat the schedules like
No,
the SEC did? No, they
because
reshuffled.
Oregon's got way easier. Indiana, we'll rattle it off. Dub against Old Dominion. Dub against Kennesaw State. Dub against Indiana State. Illinois, toss-up. Iowa, probably give you the dub. Loss to Oregon. Dub against Michigan State. Dub against UCLA. We'll give you the dub against Maryland. Probably a loss to Penn State. Dub against Wisconsin. Dub against Purdue. They're likely back in the playoff conversation based on that. I mean, that schedule is Oregon and Penn State, and then a question against Illinois. So very, very, very manageable schedule.
Do your homework on Sawyer Robinson. Will you Google Sawyer Robinson for me? We're going to do our homework. Can Notre Dame repeat their success next season with an unproven quarterback? Same question for Ohio State. I liked what that backup quarterback from Notre Dame did when he came in.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that dude drove down the field in a 2-minute drill and put him in scoring position before taking a catastrophic sack.
Yes, he did. Sawyer Robertson is the starting quarterback at Baylor, who threw for 3,071 yards last year, 28 touchdowns, and 8 interceptions.
Is this the transfer from Toledo?
Trying to find that out right now. Stats. No, he's the guy that came from Mississippi State.
Oh, okay. Shout out Sawyer Robinson. Going to tear it up in the Big 12 this year.
28-8, not bad.
Not bad at all. Back to this question. I trust in the schedule at Notre Dame to be okay. Also trust the fact that Jeremiah Love's there. Also trust the fact that I think apart from the backup center that transferred out and a backup guard that transferred out, I think they returned most of their offensive line, including a freshman that played tremendously well at left tackle last year before getting hurt. So I'm okay with where Notre Dame's at offensively. It's the defensive questions I got a lot about. I think they lose a lot of veterans on that defensive side of the football. Riley was the defensive tackle that broke his arm. Number 99, he's gone. Howard Cross, I think, returns. You lose Jack Keisner, the linebacker. On to Ohio State. I feel no sense of remorse when teams like Ohio State lose what they lost because they recruit just like the rest of these teams that we talk about ad nauseum. So I think they're going to be okay. I think Riley Mills. The biggest step back for them is obviously the loss of the offensive coordinator. And but I like Julian saying. I think there's a physical limitation to him, though. He's not a huge guy.
No.
He's 6 foot. He's 190 pounds. He's really talented with his arm. He can make a lot of different throws from a lot of different platforms, and he's tremendously accurate. The take on him coming out of high school was that he's been molded to be the next Bryce Young with a little bit more physical capabilities in terms of height and weight. I don't think he's as uniquely gifted of a thrower as Bryce is. Bryce has made throws even on the NFL level where it's like, my God, son, you could have walked down there and handed it to him. So yeah, I don't know. I don't think they're going to struggle, to be honest with you. They've got plenty of weapons and plenty of talent.
For sure.
So, and having Jeremiah Smith in year 2 is pretty damn good. Question for JWill. What position did you play in basketball and how did you get into football?
It's a tremendous question. When I was little, I was point guard because when you're little, it's more so about who's got enough skill to bring the ball up the court. Then that quickly dissipated for me. I was the tallest kid growing up, so I quickly got moved to the post, played center all 4 years in high school. How I got into football, I mean, I'm much like y'all, I assume. I've grown up watching college football. On Sundays, I watch the NFL. Unfortunately, a Falcons fan. And so as my basketball career progressed, because I started out with the goal of, I want to play in college, I want to do all this stuff, quickly learned that's probably not in the cards for me. I don't think that's going to happen. So I quickly, about in 8th grade, kind of decided I want to go pursue a journalism degree because I wanted to do something in sports because that's what I love doing. I was passionate about it. And so I started a website up for myself, did that through high school, went to college, got a degree, met Brooks over social media, got a job here, and then that just kind of has evolved from this. I mean, I started out as a writer and then earned a spot on the show, and now the rest is history. I talk college football for a living.
Jonathan is a prime example of I noticed somebody who was putting a tremendous amount of effort into this. And I actually had this conversation about this with somebody yesterday. I 100% believe this is an effort-based industry. You have to be talented. There's no doubt about it. You have to, like, especially doing what we do, getting in front of a camera, being able to hold the audience's attention and be entertaining while also being informative is certainly a gift. It is certainly a talent, but there's a talent predicated off of effort and being willing to work. So that's always been something that I've noticed in people. And you just heard it. I mean, started his own high school website, realized in 8th grade what he wanted to do. Okay. Not this guy. This guy spent 6 years thinking he was going to be a college football player.
Well, it's like in 8th grade, my mom kind of gently set me down and was like, hey, you're great at basketball. I love this for you. Let's maybe think of a plan B in case this whole sports thing doesn't work out. She said, I think you're really good at writing. Maybe figure out something there. So my parents both did a good job of kind of directing me into a direction at an age where I like could figure it out. And I had plenty of time to figure it out and experiment with it. And they were both super supportive.
I believe the word you used there was gently.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not so much from my pops. My pops at 14 years old, while working out to make the freshman football team, was like, hey, dude, this ain't it. Like, you are not playing college football. And I said, what? He goes, yeah, you're not. You're not going to be big. You're not going to be fast. You're not a good athlete. You need to start studying math really, really hard and become an engineer. And I was like, what? Screw you, Pops. I'm playing college football. Against all odds, I'm going to do this. Division II.
Still played.
Screw you, Pop. Still did it. But no, he was right. I mean, he was right, but he was wrong. I mean, I went on to become or obtain a master's in business administration. A degree, I guess you could technically label that I use now, because I am a business owner and a business operator.
You use it.
And we definitely approach this with business mind first, after journalism mind second. But yeah, no, total different path for yours truly into this. And my path is one that I see a lot more common nowadays.
Mm-hmm.
25 years ago, if you didn't have a journalism degree, you weren't covering sports. There's no doubt about it. Nowadays, if you're good enough as an independent content creator, maybe you can create a life out of that. But it took 1,471 days. That's how long it took me of working in construction as a master's in business, or with a master's in business, before I left the world of construction to solely do this. That's a long time.
Yeah. And
one that most people don't want to go down. We already attacked Josh Armstrong's question about Tyler. Josh, I do appreciate you super chubbing that. You've been one of our most adamant supporters over the last 6-7 months since finding this network. We appreciate you for being here. Flying Hawaiian says, does Oregon take the next step this year with Dan Lanning? You open the floor. Do you think Dan Lanning and Oregon take the next step?
I assume the next step is winning a national title. Like,
I assume it's winning a playoff game.
Or that too. Yeah. I mean, winning a playoff game. So if we're starting from that perspective, yeah, I'll say that they take the next step, because they're going to get there. The schedule in the regular season is going to put them in position where they're going to be one of the top 12 teams this year. Might even win the Big Ten again this year. So they're going to be in a position to do it. And I like my odds of Dan Lanning getting another crack at this and putting on a better performance. The only question is some rotating pieces on the roster. Got a new quarterback coming in. That's really the only question you have for them, but they're super talented. They recruit well. They recruit out of the transfer portal really well. So it only feels like they're going to take a step forward. They're not going to take a step back.
RKD says, games in Jordan-Hare have you delusional if you think Georgia, which lost 70% of starters from a year ago, are just going to the Plains and smack Auburn. I think this is a misconstrued of whatever we just got done talking about, because last night I told you Jordan-Hare scares me a whole hell of a lot more than Jackson Arnold does.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, if you follow the SEC, you know you can get trapped up in Jordan-Hare no matter what. No matter who you are, no matter how bad Auburn is, you can get messed up. We are very well aware of this. I just think on going into it, I'm going to pick Georgia.
Yeah.
I think it's fair. How do you think Caleb Downs will be used in Patricia's defense? From what I know, it's a defense that uses one high safety a lot. Nate, I'm going to tell you right now, I don't know what Matt Patricia's plans are, but I know what my plans would be. My plans would be to walk in there day one, and I'd have a meeting with Caleb Downs. I'd have a meeting with Sonny Styles, their linebacker, and I'd have a meeting with that edge rusher. And I'd say, what do you guys want to do? What kind of defense do y'all want to play? Because I've been in the league for 25 years. There's not a defense that I don't know how to install and teach. So what makes you guys comfortable? And I guarantee you Caleb Downs' answer is going to be split safeties. Okay. That's what he likes to play. Now, and that's what I think they did a great job of this year doing up at Ohio State. Really, really doing a great job of splitting coverage based off what the defense or what the offense is doing. That's only allowed to happen if you have a savant in the back end as a player, or multiple coaches who are savants in installing split coverage defense, like what Alabama had for years and like what Georgia now has.
Mm-hmm.
So that would be my first approach is, and I wouldn't even maybe even include the linebacker and the edge rusher. Maybe just talk to Caleb. I've overstated this at this point. I don't think there's a smarter football player I've ever been around than Caleb Downs. Not one.
It's fair.
I mean, he's so brilliant and cares so much about the sport. And that's why he aligned with who he aligned with, I think, coming out of high school with regards to Nick Saban. Let's see here. Thoughts on rebuilding their rosters strictly through the portal? I don't know who he's referencing here, so I'll just give you a blanket statement. I've talked about this last night. If I were hired at a new job and the only reason I was hired is because the last guy got fired, meaning our team's not very good, the first thing I'm doing is investing heavily into the portal, right? I'm going right to my boosters and I'm saying, hey, we have an opportunity to turn this around really quickly. I've got to go out and buy good players. Is there an opportunity that you believe in me enough to do that? That's what I would do first and foremost. And then after that, I would make sure that we're in a winnable position my first year with those transfer players. And then we would immediately build all of our future successes off of high school recruiting. I still believe that the portal should be used as an additive. We are using the portal as something to make our roster whole, but we are not solely reliant upon the roster upon the portal to build our roster. I think as a very short-sighted way of going about developing your program. It also does not lead to sustained success, in my opinion. I have not seen a football program just year in, year out build on the portal and be good. I saw Michigan State do it well with Kenneth Walker and Mel Tucker year one, and then we all know what happened there. It's a lot to do with off-the-field stuff, but they didn't look like they were going to have a very sustained success run, even with Mel Tucker, if none of the off-the-field stuff even happened. Ole Miss is up and down year to year and will continue to be so until they develop some type of groundwork in the recruiting avenue. Now, here's the deal. Maybe you're at a program that is never going to ever recruit inside the top 10 because your proximity to talent is not very good, because your recruiting resources are not very high, because your relative history success in developing players into NFL successes are not very high. Maybe that's your background. Maybe that's what you're settled with right now. And then in that case, maybe you have to go in every single year and be a good portal team. And if that were my case, if I were a team that is never going to recruit inside the top 15, if I were a program like Baylor, or if I were a program like Colorado, yeah, maybe I have to go into the portal every single year. And at that point, I need somebody who is the best talent evaluator possible that can look at a Power 5 football player as a backup in garbage time and accurately assess how good he's going to be on my roster.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's where like teams like Texas Tech right now think they're going to do really, really well this year, but that's because they think they signed good players. But what if those players aren't good at your school? That's a problem, right? And that's a problem that you're going to have to – it's a gamble that you're going to have to make every year if you're one of these teams.
Yeah, I mean, you kind of have to toe the line a little bit. I think the teams that have been best with it are the teams, again, like what Ohio State did this past year of – they kept players on their roster. They kept really good football players on their roster, guys that they recruited out of high school, but they also filled gaps with really good transfer portal additions like Caleb Downs, like Will Howard, like Quinshon Judkins. So it's got to be a blend of both. I don't think you can be a mercenary in one or the other because the climate of college football, how much player movement there is and whatnot, it doesn't allow you to do that anymore.
I need a tape up there on the board. Jariah Edwards, Jireh Edwards, is a safety out of St. Francis. We got asked what our opinions are on him. I haven't watched the tape, so we're going to watch it together and see what we got on that one. Big time safety prospect out of St. Francis. I'm a big proponent of all St. Francis football players. I'm a proponent of all DMV football players, to be honest with you. Anybody in that area, they play tough, competitive football, and they are violent. They are hitters. I expect to see a striker on this tape based off the geographical location of this football player. So once that's pulled up, we'll go over there and pay attention to that. Let's see here. See if we can get a quick one while we go over here.
I got it.
Top 3 wide receivers in state. Go 1 with Aaron Gregory, in my opinion. 2, probably Devin Carter. 3, maybe Ryan Mosley out of Carrollton. Those are solid 3.
Mm-hmm.
The only one of that you have a chance at right now is Ryan Mosley, even though if South Carolina ain't making the biggest push for that guy, I don't know what they are.
Yeah.
I don't know what it looks like for South Carolina to push if it don't look like that. So they're really high up there as well. All right, let's go to the board and take a look at Jeriah Edwards. All right, like I told you, St. Francis, this is out of Maryland. All right, and here's the thing you got to know about this team. They play a really tough schedule. All right, they got nobody in the area of Maryland that even wants to sniff them in terms of playing them other than Gonzaga, the Gonzaga school that Caleb Williams went to. That's about it, and we'll probably see them pop up on here. Everybody else, they're traveling to Georgia to play Buford. They're traveling to Florida to play St. Chaminade, where Jeremiah Smith's coming from. They're traveling out west to play Bosco. They are a national brand in terms of high school football. They travel the country. Told you we'd find a striker. Told you we'd find a striker. Does the guy know ball? The guy knows ball. We're going to find a striker out of these areas. I'm telling you right now, these dudes are violent football players on the defensive side of the ball. Every single time I turn the tape on. Bam! I'm telling you. Okay? There ain't no ifs, ands, or buts. If you get a kid out of the DMV that plays defense, you're going to have a headhunter. You know who else is from the DMV, Jonathan?
Who's that?
Guy by the name of Jamon Dumas Johnson played at this high school. Okay? A striker, a violent football player. What bam? Boy, did I nail this,
Yeah, you did.
without even ever having to look at it. Oh, and then we make a play. Yes, sir. Did we get beat on a double move right there and recover? I think that's what we had. We had a little option route, little option stick right here. Yep. Get beat off the line of scrimmage and still make a play on the ball. Golly, it looks long, doesn't he?
Yeah, he does.
You see his arms?
Mm-hmm.
It was really, really long. I also love that we're playing in here in the nickel, all right, in high school football. All right, we're not a deep safety. So I always have a propensity every time I see one of these hybrid defensive backs, my number one thing when looking at them to potentially play at Georgia, that's a nickel. That's a star defender. That's a guy that can play star at Georgia. To be able to play star at Georgia, you got to be a bump and run, be able to play man-to-man coverage against slot receivers. You got to be big enough to add in on blitz packages if need be, like what Tyke Smith did during his time at Georgia. And you got to be able to fit in run support. All right. So you got to be a very physical football player that can also run in coverage. That's a very tough task in college football. Boom. Oh, my. Whew. All right. So we watched our man last night, Blaine, excuse me, that we loved a lot out of Louisiana. I'm liking this a ton too.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the highest rated safety in high school is Jet Washington, Kobe Bryant's nephew out from Bishop Gorman. That guy's 6'5". He's 210 pounds. I have no idea if he's going to stay at safety in college. But I kind of, the projection of these guys make me feel a whole hell of a lot safer, right? The Blaine projection and this projection right here. I know I'm not going to have to maybe move him, hope he doesn't gain weight, hope he doesn't get too slow. I'm not going to have to do any of that stuff. I like this tape a lot.
Mm-hmm.
He's in there in the nickel again. We're in man-to-man coverage all the way right here. Good patient. Long. A little bit grabby on that backhand, but if we're going to be grabby, be grabby quick like he was right there. All right, in the box. Probably going to get a run support clip here. Oh, my. Yeah, that would be I would go him and then the Blaine kid right after that. I do worry about that Blaine kid from Louisiana getting a little too heavy. We talked about that last night. That's some good tape right there from that kid. That's a tremendous suggestion from the chat right there to watch that on live air. We appreciate that from our comment section, helping us out with a ball knower right there. That's a ball player right there. All right, we've been hammering this for 90 minutes. I'm having fun. You having fun?
I am having fun.
Anything else we got going on? We got to cut the stream and tend to, or can we continue hammering questions?
I'm good with whatever.
All right, let's continue hammering questions. Make sure you get those super chubs in if you want to make sure that we address your question today. Let's see here. Oh, we might be out of questions.
Yeah, I think they started rattling off between one another in the chat.
That's all good. You got anything?
Not that I can think of.
I don't think so either. Appreciate you guys for being here. It's been a great show here on Wednesday. We do this every Wednesday at noon. So if you like this nice laid-back format, we will be here. GME says no. Wait. All right.
We will wait for you.
We will wait. I'm just kidding. Answer the question. Are your projections?
Here's one.
What?
Who are the main targets that come to mind stepping up on defense this year with losing so many good players this year?
The linebackers got to step up big time. CJ Allen, Raylan Wilson got to play to their standard or what we think they are. KJ Bolden obviously has to take a massive leap as well with Malachi and Dan being out of that room. And just really a whole lot of questions about who's going to be the other safety. Right now on paper, it looks like it's going to be Ja'Cory Thomas.
Mm-hmm.
And then after that, it's like, hey, which one of these transfers is going to get ready to play? So that would be my biggest question on the defensive side of the football. Obviously, everyone talks about defensive tackles.
For sure.
You know, they got to get back to being what they were, which I don't think you ever will, unfortunately, which is not crazy to say.
No.
You know, if you never stack a defensive line that looks like Jalen Carter, Jordan Davis, Devontae Wyatt, Trayvon Walker, Nolan Smith ever again, then you're probably just like everybody else.
Just like it's okay, your running back room probably will never look like Todd Gurley, Nick Chubb, Sony Michel ever again.
Yeah, with a freshman DeAndre Swift on the way.
Yeah,
probably won't look like that.
And that's okay.
That's okay. Nobody else's will, though.
No.
You know, so we're good on that.
Do you ever see the show Moving Out of Mom's Basement?
Have you seen this place?
I don't want to leave.
I mean, seriously, this is privately funded. This is all us. We ain't got we can do everything we ever want right here. And it's why I built it. And I think some people thought I was crazy when I first built it, but I built it with the intentions to one day take off and never have to leave. Like, we produce the highest, we're a graphics team away. That's it. We're a graphics team running bottom thirds and putting highlights in the corner away from being ESPN quality product around here in a privately funded studio. And the reason I built it that way is so we don't have to leave. I don't have to move my family, go anywhere else. No, it's right here in my basement. I hear my kids running around all day upstairs. I live the dream. The only thing I want more is more. That's all I want. But if it's just this, Jonathan, are you okay?
Oh, dude, I'm fine.
I'm good too.
Completely fine.
If it's just this, we're good because I am happy. We have a great time.
Absolutely.
Now we work our ass off.
That's okay.
I didn't feel like I was having a great time this last weekend. But it is what it is. Appreciate you guys for being here. I think we're going to call it on that. And if you have any other questions, submit them to footballq4ba. Football, the letter Q, FORBA @gmail.com. We'll get those addressed on the next stream. Appreciate you guys for being here. Make sure you hit that thumbs up button on your way out. I love you. Bye.